Yeah, g'day. It's Jump Bunny here. Hope you're all well. I was thinking about I'm contemplating moving to Thailand and taking advantage of the benefits there. But if I wasn't actually born and bred Australian and I was overseas, would I actually move here? Would I move to Australia? And it's a difficult equation to answer because you might have relatives here. You might have seen adverts on telly. I don't know if the Australian government actually advertises overseas for people to come here. Given the number of people who do come here, 750,000 year on year gross, net 500,000. It's entirely possible they do. It seems like a really popular destination, and I'm really perplexed as to why it is a popular destination. I don't know. So I guess my net feeling about it, if I was coming from overseas, and I came from, say, the United Kingdom where I had pounds, it could be advantageous to come here because the price of property over there and the accessibility of it might be more than it is here, even given the ridiculous prices here. But I watch this show on TV, sometimes, House Hunters, right? And I know the TV's a bit out of date, but some of those properties are cheaper than they are here, so I'm going to eliminate that one, right? So this is a collection of reasons, and I'm just going to go through it, why you wouldn't, if I lived overseas, I wouldn't come here, right? I know there's the beaches and the outback and all the rest of it, right? But the actual day-to-day living conditions, the cost of living, price of housing, these things, right? The first reason is that Australia is a supposed democracy, but with no real representation of the ordinary people's wishes, right? And I'm probably going to repeat myself here a bit, but this bid for this climate hoopla COP, whatever that stands for, $2 billion and whatever, it's gone away. It went away yesterday, right? But that doesn't mean that the government didn't try and something happened, right? They were prepared to spend $2 billion hosting some fantasy, right? And you saw the circus it was in Brazil. Let's have the circus in Adelaide, right? Along with preferential voting, so in the UK, it's first past the post. In Australia, it's this preferential voting system, which means you vote for people and you haven't got a chance of getting anyone in, right? That has values that are aligned to yours. And as a result, you end up with this Labor government, which is very socialist, right? This is a real warning for people who think Australia is a democracy. There is no freedom of speech at all, right? There's an implied right in the Constitution, but there's actually no Bill of Rights in Australia. You don't have rights, and the law can be changed whenever the government of the day feels like it, and they seem to be really apt to passing legislation, right? The reason the government of the day is so powerful is that there is no credible opposition party, right? The Liberal, National Party, One Nation, Greens, Teals, the whole lot, and they're opposed with each other and opposed within themselves. There's no credible opposition. So in that sense, I genuinely believe that even though we have elections here, Australia is not really a democracy, right? The government of the day seems to be embracing some form of megalomania, right? They are completely separate from the reality of the economic situation, cost of living, housing prices, etc. As a result, they're more interested in foreign causes, Palestine, recognising Palestine, right? They're interested in pursuing very high energy prices at the expense of the people. And this isn't me just saying this. If you look in the media, and I'm assuming whoever listens to this is from overseas and might actually stumble across this, stumble in. and actually say, well, should I move to Australia? I'm thinking about it. Is it a good place to live? Yeah, so that's where I'm coming from, right? Net zero. We have now the first in the world of censorship of social media for under 16s. Government overreach, right? Your kids come here, and let's say they're 15, right? They're not allowed to use social media. They're not allowed to have an account. They can watch it. They can't create content, right? The e-safety commissioner who's instituted all of this, which is not a publicly elected role, who's implemented these laws, right, is being called by the US Congress over threats to American free speech. So that gives you an idea, and she's actually American herself, right? Big Australia and big government. So the trajectory of the government here is employing more and more and more and more people, right? Big Australia. Now, like I said at the beginning, it perplexes me as to why people are moving here at all. It's really, really, really expensive. Job market's kind of okay at the moment. Don't move to Victoria. The crime rates are through the roof. They've got a long-standing Labor government who's really spending money and borrowing money like it's water and wasting it on a whole bunch of minority issues such as a Indigenous voice to Parliament, which we had a referendum here, and it was defeated. So why, and Indigenous leaders stood up and said, why, we're a democracy, why do we need extra representation? There's a bunch of complicated stuff going on, right? Big Australia, big government. The government's deeply invested in this form of megalomania where they've got a vision for the country that is completely divorced from what the people on the ground like me actually think is sensible, right? What that all boils down to is that they need to pay for this, and the tax regime here is extremely expensive, right? The top marginal rate is 47 cents in the dollar. Not only that, you've got income tax, you've got capital gains tax, you've got tax on your savings, everything's taxed, you've got fuel and excise tax. We're one of the most highest taxed populations in the world. And by comparison, in Thailand, top marginal rate there is 35%, which only kicks in if you start earning like $300,000. And if you are a foreigner and you go there and you get a long-term visa, long-term resident visa, LTR, you're going to pay 17%, right? Australia historically also has something called tall poppy syndrome, which is if you're smart, intelligent, highly successful, unless you got there, yeah, g'day mate, yeah, you go. They want to cut the poppies down, right? And that's still the case, I think. Because the government's wasting money on minorities and just schemes to send the country broke, which some people call managed decline, I don't buy into that. These deeply socialist beliefs is basically forcing companies to go somewhere else, right? Overseas, where the power's cheaper, where the tax regimes are better, where the conditions of business are better. Certainly, business leaders have said doing business in Victoria isn't worth doing, right? Because there's just more and more and more legislation. What you'll also find is that because of the cost of living and these kind of things, hospitality, dining out, they're all going broke, and dining out is really expensive. The lifestyle here, unless you go bush in a 4B, it's really expensive, right? And like I've said on previous videos, we don't eat out at all. As a family of four, you want to go out, you're up for $200, right, for a meal. Like, yeah, I can buy my weekly shop with that. Thanks very much, right? more government spending, more borrowing is leading to inflation, persistent inflation that is not going away, which means that if you borrow money, the money is going to be expensive, and it also results in less growth, right? And your gross domestic product, GDP, goes down, right? The net consequence of all of this is that Australians are somehow addicted to property and house prices. In Australia, a third of people rent, a third of people have a mortgage, and a third of people own their own home without owing the bank, right? The house prices here, because of the migration situation, have gone through the roof, right? The median house price in Sydney is 1.75 million. Good luck finding a house for that. It's probably more likely $2.5 million, right? The government recently introduced this first homeowners grant scheme where they'll 5% deposit, they'll underwrite the loan with the borrower, with the lender, sorry, with the bank. That means there's more money coming into the market. That means supply is constrained, house prices are going up. There was this article the other day, it was around, well, we need more immigrants because we need people to build houses. There was the opposite article, we need skilled people to come here and help us build houses, right? There was an opposite article which said that people with those skill sets do not want to move because they're doing really well where they are, right? Why would you uproot yourself to basically a foreign country in order to build houses here when you can build them in your own home, right? We need to educate and train and skill up people who are here in order to do that. So, in conclusion, I think that if I was overseas and I knew all of this, and I don't know how accessible this kind of information is, and obviously it's my opinion, if I knew all of this and I was overseas, I don't think I would move to Australia at all. So I'll leave you with that thought. See you on the next one.